Hey there, everybody. This is Phil's show. I'm Phil. It's my show. And if you're watching this, you probably know me or know something about me. But if you don't, I'm an independent web creator guy that has been doing this for 20 odd years at this point. I now, instead of writing code for a living, mostly talk and write for a living, which seems to be the way these things go. You either die a hero or live long enough to become the email professional that you always feared you would. But speaking of fear, we've got a fearless guest here on the show, J Holden, an old acquaintance and dare I say friend of mine from uh, many moons ago back when they were still doing XOXO, and they're doing it again this year, which I am super duper excited about. I think everybody I've talked to since the first time I went to XOXO, which would have been like 8 years ago, almost every conversation I've had with any other human, it has been brought up. And so I'm super excited to do it again this year. And one of the awesome people I met at XOXO's past was our guest, J Holden. And so what we're going to try to do here is bring Jesse in without, where's my talking heads thing? Man, I specifically do this show live, so I can't really blame myself for anything that goes wrong. It's really about being kind. It's about being kind to myself. So I'm going to go ahead and pin Jesse's video in Zoom. I like to narrate this as well. It's just inside baseball for the nice people out there. And now I'm going to I'm going to transition over here and crop Jesse's head into the shot. You will be able to see this live hot editing action. Let's see if I can actually do it. That's pretty close. That is good enough. Good enough for government work. Good enough for government work. Jesse, go ahead and say something there. See if we can hear you.
Hey, Phil, it's really good to see you.
It's really good to see you too. I'm not entirely sure if people can hear you or not, but I guess we'll find out. I don't have my monitor plugged in right now.
This is doing it live is so brave and reckless. The number of times I have tried to start my own podcast or got my own things underway is many, but I'm the kind of guy who records and records and records and talks and talks and talks and tries to make 15 minutes of content out of 2 hours of blathering. So this is going to be potentially the debut of me in full blather mode. So apologies in advance.
Hey, I mean that's what we do here. So I just double checked our audio and we're all good. Yes, but no, I mean Jesse, there's a reason that I do the show in this way, and it's because to save myself from myself, to protect myself from being able to do that, because to a degree it's really important to put out your best work, obviously, but like it's also when you have all the time in the world, you tend to take all the time in the world. Like
Absolutely.
it's a dangerous thing sometimes. And so I like to sort of handcuff myself with the constraints of live, because basically nothing that happens is that big of a deal. It's impossible to account for the randomness of the universe, like it is what it is. So anyway, Jesse, tell the folks out there that maybe watching that don't know who you are, and kind of some stuff you do.
Yeah, sure. I'm coming hot off of my day job here, so what if you give me a small amount of grace while I kind of transition my brain here. I've lived in Portland since 2004, and I've gone to almost every XOXO, which is where I met Phil, as he was mentioning, and have always tried to stay connected to kind of like the local and global kind of indie creative community, and that's taken a couple of different forms. In a certain way, I'm kind of, and I've said this before, I'm kind of grateful that it's never become my day job to do the creative work. I really like the idea of where my money comes from not being where kind of my passion lies creatively, because as soon as that turns into a job, I start to fear it turns into a job in, the bad ways. And so my day job has always been kind of IT, tech adjacent stuff. But on the side, creatively, I've done indie games. I know Phil has done indie games too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We should talk about game jams and kind of what the current state of those is. That would be
Oh yeah,
awesome.
definitely.
I've like I said, started a couple of podcasts, and I was involved with a local nonprofit, kind of co-founded a local nonprofit that helped a lot of other podcasts get off the ground, especially podcasts coming from marginalized voices or voices that weren't as well represented in the podcasting space. And I've done a little bit of kind of writing and asset creation for video games outside of game jams and stuff. But the what I'm kind of most currently invested in and have been since 2015 or so is a comic series started as a web comic and print comic series called Incredible Doom. That I co-write with my colleague and compatriot Matthew Bogart, and he does all or effectively all of the drawing. There's a little bit of drawing in there that I've done, and a little bit that we got some friends to help with some quick backgrounds when we were trying to push a print deadline. But by and large, the simplest version is we write it together and he draws it. And Incredible Doom has been one of the great successes of my life in a extremely surprising and exhilarating way, where at the urging of some friends who are also kind of XOXO compatriots, we pursued getting a publisher who pursued getting us a we pursued getting an agent who pursued getting us a publishing deal that came through in a really big way, and HarperCollins was able to publish a collection of everything we had done up to that point, and as well as an entire second volume that they commissioned us to do.
The website here, Eternal September. Yeah, exciting.
Yeah, so where we're at now is an exciting point. We're kind of going back to our indie web roots and publishing for free online what we hope will eventually become the third volume of Incredible Doom.
Get on that Patreon, folks.
Yeah. So for what became Volume 1 started as just a series of mini comics that we handmade and shipped to Patreon backers. Volume 2 was the one that HarperCollins wanted us to do as an add-on to kind of complete the story of Volume 1.
Speaking of mini comics, I have an artifact here.
There we go.
Number 1, yes. It even still has the little
the feely.
The feely.
Yeah.
Exactly. Super
I
good.
love it. Yeah.
Super
So
good.
that's what we started by doing, was making those and shipping them to Patreon backers. And ended up with between 300 and 350 pages of that that got published as Volume 1. Volume 2 was the one that HarperCollins commissioned us to do, and we just made that all in one big crush in a rush. We didn't send out mini comics or individually produce printed copies of the individual chapters on that one. But so that one never really saw the web in the same way.
I have the hardcover version of Volume 1 over there as well. For a long time, when I had my shelf behind them, your books were in every episode of my other show, Open CV Weekly.
Yay!
Yeah, they were in the background. Yeah.
All right, some subliminal advertising.
Yes, of course. I mean,
so like I was saying, what we hope will turn into Volume 3, we're out of the publishing ecosystem and back into the indie web ecosystem, where we are publishing regular updates for free on the web. You can read the story starting with chapters 1 and 2, I think, are completely available right now for anyone to read at incredibledoom.com. And if you back on Patreon, you can read quite a ways ahead in the story.
Yeah, excellent. So yeah, check out incredibledoom.com. The quintessential web / traditionally published / web again comic about the early days of the teens getting into trouble in the early days of the internet. that well-trod genre that's so popular these days.
Right. The Volume 1, issue 1 opens with a flashback to our main character's kind of early teenage years as an assistant on her father's failing stage magic show, and he gets is kind of a jerk to her, and you show people that, and that's their first taste of your comic. So it's another early 90s proto-web abusive stage magician story. So we'll just put it I'll put it on that shelf in my home library.
Just put it on the pile, right? I mean,
right.
There's dozens of those every week these days. It's unending, the sheer amount of content. So yeah, I mean, Great introduction, and also yes, everybody should read Incredible Doom. Like Jesse said, it's very accessible, easy to get to on Al Gore's internet. Just go to incredibledoom.com. You can read a bunch of stuff for absolutely free. Speaking of absolutely free, let's do a quick. Let's butt into the conversation here to take a look at what's playing on Retro Strange TV. What's on Retro Strange TV right now, folks? Retro Strange TV is the 24/7 streaming channel that I run that has a whole bunch of awesome old content, mostly public domain or stuff of dubious licensing. Right now, it looks like we're playing Star Crash. No, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. An extremely great film that, due to a weird quirk and lapse on the parts of the people who made it, we can legally show for free. So thanks, copyright, for being so Byzantine and confusing that even the major copyright people can fuck it up sometimes. So yes, Retro Strange TV is supported by my patrons. Can you believe it? We're two white guys on a podcast, and we've got Patreons. What are the odds? They're approaching 100%. But you can find mine at patreon.com/Phil Nelson, where you can join the 15 paid patrons currently to help support Retro Strange TV and Phil's show. You can also go to extrafuture.com to find other Phil content. Don't forget my other show, OpenCV Live, every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time, where we have guests from around the computer vision and artificial intelligence community. We just had episode 138 of that, if you can believe it. Big shout out to David Lynch there. I still miss his morning weather forecasts. You can also find me at Old School Heel on YouTube, where I post old, mostly forgotten, sometimes very rare professional wrestling content. I know, Jesse, you and I have talked a bit about pro wrestling in the past, because almost nobody gets out of a conversation with me without discussing pro wrestling in some way. Portland has a great history of professional wrestling. In fact, that is one of the main places that the great Roddy Piper cut his teeth and became like a household name, at least in the Pacific Northwest. But wrestling for Don Owen out there way back in the day. In fact, when he became very popular with the WWF, and they were selling out, every building in the world when they went out there with him versus Hulk Hogan, he had made a promise to the promoter out there, Don Owen, that he would never work on a show opposing a Don Owen show in Portland. And so he kept his word until the end of his days. Even when he was with the WCW, he would not wrestle Portland shows. So pretty stand-up dude. When he said something, it seems like he meant it.
I love
that.
Also,
speaking of Portland, XOXO Fest is coming back again. Also, it's just super strong independent video game, independent everything out there, but super strong independent video game scene. I've got one of the examples of that here in my hands, the Playdate. Everybody loves the Playdate. Who doesn't love the Playdate?
Oh, mine's in the other room. I would show you mine too.
When I'm out there for XOXO, I'll bring you one of the little cases, one of the little stands that I printed.
Oh, I love that.
This is designed so it can lay flat at just enough of an angle that like the sun can catch it, and you can use it as a clock. That was my plan, because I love the word clock. It's such a, I hate knowing exactly what time it is, right? I want 7:05. I want that shit. Mm-hmm. Big shout out to the Playdate. Indie games. Let's talk a little bit about indie games. Like you
that ties together a few different
jams. Yeah,
a few different threads. So XOXO, obviously, and I'm sure your viewers know about XOXO if you've talked about it before, but just kind of an independent, it's internet fueled creative festival / conference. Although, we don't like the word conference.
Lower your expectations.
And it has a pretty good showing of kind of indie video games kind of before they're released to the public. You get a chance a lot of times to play them there, and that's really fun. Portland also used to be the home to something I'm not sure, Phil, you and I talked about before, but Portland Organic Wrestling. Have you ever heard that?
No, I don't know this one.
Portland Organic Wrestling was a relatively anarchistic collective of people who would put on these grandiose wrestling shows in metal venues from stage. Sweet. And and they were just absolute unbridled chaos.
It reminds
It
me a
was
little
one of
bit of
the
Hood Slam. Here in the Bay Area, we have something called Hood Slam, which is a
hmm
similar sort of sounding sort of thing. Like they've run several shows at, like DNA Lounge, for example, and a lot of like nightclubs. And so it's
hmm
that sort of crowd. I love Hood Slam. Like one of the hallmarks of that is the host Broseph J Brody, who comes out to Nickelback and then covers himself in a fog of Axe body spray. It's very good. But he walks around the ring with a bottle of Jack Daniels and pours it in people's mouths
hmm
on the perimeter of the ring. It's that sort of show.
It's a messy show. Portland Organic Wrestling, unfortunately, no longer around, as far as I know.
Mm.
But it's similar to expect like Guar levels of
Yes, yes.
messiness from both the
Rest
audience and
in
the
rest
stage,
in peace, Odorous Arungus.
where people would just be buying armfuls of beers just to throw onto the stage and throw at
Right.
the wrestlers, and the wrestlers would throw them back. And then the
Punk
stunts
rock.
and the special effects, as it kind of built to a climactic, messy, chaotic wrestling fest. Where I had just moved to Portland, and so it must have been like 2005 or six. And it culminated in George W. Bush coming out and wrestling Osama bin Laden,
Okay.
and then the Bible comes out and
Grudge
it
match.
takes out George W. Bush, and then the Quran comes out and takes out the Bible,
Makes
and
sense.
there's just shit and vomit flying everywhere. Sorry if the language might not be
Makes
okay.
makes kayfabe sense. No, we can say whatever the fuck we want.
So great times, and your first indie game that I ever played was
Hmm.
a wrestling based game, although I
Yes,
can't remember the
Wrestler. It
specifics.
was called
Wrestler,
Wrestler.
yes.
Yes. That that's still on there. Like I'm threatening to do like another release. It's been like 2 or 3 years, but I at some point I started calling that like my doomed forever project, and so I think that's what it will become. There low key there may be a version in the works for the Playdate, which I think would be really fun.
Oh
Like one of
yes.
the gimmick with this one is that it's like a 10 or 15 minute thing, and you do a whole like wrestler's career, and
Hmm.
you like literally use the crank to like crank from one era of your career, like basically fast forward time from like your first match to like 2 or 3 years from then, which I think will be really fun, but that will probably never see the light of day. But now people can think about it, that watch this show. They'll be like, oh, Phil should have finished that. And I'll watch this 5 years from now and be like, oh man, that sounds like a good idea. I should do that now.
Oh, I remember when I used to have ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gosh, what a long
Yeah,
time ago that
we
was.
really liked the idea of putting an Incredible Doom mini comic on the Playdate too, just because it just kind of it fits so nicely into that kind of early computing vibe that
Definitely.
the Playdate is kind of, it's both super modern but also that throwback where
Yeah.
when we first got to play with one before they were out, when we were at XOXO and using kind of the test units at the time to get a feel for it.
Yeah.
Immediately, I grabbed Nevin Mergen from Panic
Yeah.
was the one showing
Yeah.
me, and I said, you have to tell me like what dithering algorithm are you using on the screen. I'm like so excited, like it's the only platform I would ever ask a question like that. But I have to know, is it like the Atkinson from like old McPaint on the Mac,
Right.
like
Right.
Mac OS 6, or like
Old
like
time.
and it was just it's so fun to engage in conversations like that with people who care about the minutia of kind of retro stuff brought into today.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, because that's what
Oh yeah.
Incredible Doom is all about.
Yeah. Yeah. I recently, speaking again of not necessarily of indie games, but of like retro game stuff, I spent too much money on an analog pocket.
Oh yeah,
One of these guys, which FPGA based, like plays all the original cartridges and stuff, which is pretty sweet. And so then
that's
I went and
great.
spent too much money on a copy of Mario Golf because, of course, right? What else am I gonna do? Um, but yeah,
There's some
man,
things that on some of those old handheld cartridges were doing really original. I remember. I wish I could remember the specifics more in more detail. But well, there was a Kirby pinball game
I
where
have
it
it.
used a
Okay.
little rudimentary early gyro to determine how much you were tilting, and that was built in not into the hardware of the console, but
Yeah.
into the cartridge, right?
It's in a pile over there somewhere. But
Okay.
weirdly, there was a lot of on the Game Boy. There were several like pinball type games that had like additional hardware, like
Hmm.
One of the Pokemon ones had a buzzer in it, like so you just
Hmm.
bzz, bzz, like when you bounced off the things, which the original Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, and in fact none of the Game Boy hardware actually had, right? Um,
Hmm.
and then there was also that. So there's several games that like the Analog Pocket, for example, doesn't work with yet because
Hmm.
they require a real time clock, and that's not something that was like present on the hardware. It had to be built on the cartridges themselves. And
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah.
yeah, so like there's interesting shit like that. And there was that one Game Boy Advance game, was it Book Tie or something like that, that had a like a solar cell in it, and
Yeah, I
like
think
you
Hideo
had to play it
Kojima worked on a
outside.
game that had a solar
Yeah.
cell that was like it would play differently if you were out if it was
You,
daytime versus
like yeah,
nighttime.
you
Yeah.
had to go touch grass in order to defeat some of these characters. And I'm like, I wish. See, I'm hoping for the next like Souls game. There's a go
Hmm.
outside mode, right? Like
Hmm.
it goes, except people would be dying of like exposure trying to beat some of those bosses, like in Bloodborne or Elden Ring, where they're I've watched streamers try and fail to beat the same boss for like 6 hours, right?
Mm.
Like I've watched them do it, and I was pissed off, and I can't
Yeah.
imagine how they must have been feeling. Some people are so chill about that, though. That's totally not me. Like failure number 116, right? I would have already thrown in the towel. Like I'm done, man. I can't get, that's why I can't get into like the Elden Rings and
Yeah.
stuff. It's too much.
I
Like
mean,
I
that
want to
iteration can
so
be really
badly.
satisfying to a certain
Yeah,
type of mind, and
yeah.
I was that guy more when I was younger. I mean, it's a matter of time. To me, I would pay I would pay $25 for a game that's 100 hours long, but I'd pay $50 for a game that was 10 hours long and had the
Yeah,
same core content, just because
right,
it's like
right.
to feel like I could actually finish something in the limited amount of time I have in my stupid life anymore,
Yeah, being an
would be
adult
a
is dumb.
boon. Yeah. But I mean, I remember like really aggressively iterating on things like the first PlayStation One Wipeout game,
Yeah,
the kind of anti-gravity racing thing, and it would
yeah.
just be like I would just play the same map over and over and over again with the fastest ship on the highest speed to
Mm-hmm.
see if I could just eke a millisecond off
Shaving
my
off
best
those
time.
milliseconds. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so I have an appreciation for that too. I don't have a time for it
No,
anymore.
I feel
I
you.
gotta
Like it's
have a game that either dip in or dip out, or one I can really like get through a
that's
well-written single-player story in 10 hours. Then that's what
absolutely
I'm
me.
in for.
Absolutely me. Or in my case, instead of that, I will sometimes just default back to Fallout New Vegas, of course, which is
Mm-hmm.
like the I don't know. Like I love that that game has become like a meme of its own now, because
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where when up until basically up until the H bomb guy video,
Yeah.
like I was like I remember seeing that and I was like, oh my god, it's not just me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt so seen in that moment. I was like, oh shit, like this is gonna be great. Like, is he gonna talk about like the Josh Jay Sawyer mod for it, and like, and of
Hmm.
course he did whatever. Like, oh man,
Yeah, I
but
think it was
but
just a month
again,
ago I watched that video. It's great. It's a great piece.
oh,
All this
so
stuff is so
good.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've watched that one several times. Like I've definitely like there's certain YouTube videos, especially ones that are like 3 4 hours long, that like I'll go back to, and like you throw it on the TV when you're doing laundry and mopping and whatever, and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
passively absorb it as it's playing. Like I used to do, like I still do with like old episodes of The Simpsons. Like I was just doing
Mm-hmm.
that earlier. We were watching the kind of rare one. I feel like I never saw this one in syndication as much. The one where Bart gives Mr. Burns blood, and he gets the giant
Mm-hmm.
the Olmec head.
The Olmec head in
Um,
the end. Yeah.
like I feel like that one was never like super rarely on in syndication when I used to have regular TV. Like season
Mm-hmm.
two, basically, I think got kind of shafted in terms of the syndication numbers.
Hmm.
But maybe there were other reasons for that. I've
Great
been watching.
episode. I
Yeah,
remember Homer, I think that was the one Homer gets bitter about not getting rewarded for Bart's blood. So he writes a very angry letter to Mr. Burns and then has to try to retrieve the letter from the mailbox, including flooding it with a hose. Great. It's really good gags.
yes, that's exactly what happened. Yeah. So what was the? He calls Mr. Burns. Homer calls Mr. Burns like a buck-toothed buffoon or something like that. Like he's Homer's never more eloquent than when he's pissed off, and they
Mm-hmm.
say he smells like an elephant's butt, which is also a really
Mm-hmm.
good one. Also foreshadowing for Stampy.
Ah,
Um,
yes, indeed.
yeah. So one of your many talents, Jesse, is apparently, according to your Instagram, home renovation. This is like
Boy,
you
I
you
started a second
basically
career being an
rebuilt,
Instagram content creator without
like
realizing that's what I was doing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like wow. Do you want to talk a bit about, like, I'll try to find a couple of those videos while you're chatting with the audience.
Yeah, I went through and I kind of did a kind of a quick flip through of a bunch of old ones and reposted like kind of like a summarized clip show of the time lapses
I'll try
abbreviated.
to find it here.
But no, I mean I don't know. It's not something I had originally felt much of a calling to, but I had an opportunity. It was not too long after Incredible Doom became a going concern for me that a lot of my life changed really abruptly.
Hmm.
My relationship ended. The house we were living in was being sold by the owner, and my employer was going through their fourth or fifth restructure that was going to put me in a position that I really didn't like. And but on the other side of that option was a really incredibly generous severance package. So what I
Mm.
ended up doing was temporarily living in a very ramshackle apartment complex while I kind of got my feet underneath me, which eventually led to me having an opportunity to buy a very, very modest 750 square foot 1904, over 100 years old uh, house,
Okay.
little cottage.
Yeah, I think I
And
found it's this one, or no, this one. It's this one.
I
Yeah,
can't
there we
see
go.
on the screen, so I
I
don't
I,
know.
I found it.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
it's not a
here.
picture of me
No,
like dancing to
it's
Enya or
here. I
something.
just shared with you on Zoom. It's this. It's this one.
So yeah, so
Um,
here's me doing the kitchen, but there was so many poor aesthetic decisions in the house when I moved into it that I just combined that with a pervading sense that I felt like I didn't deserve to own a house. Like
well,
I was like, what? Why do I have a right to like have like, this 750 square foot thing, not share any walls with anybody, have this much control over my own domain, while other
mhm.
people like can't make ends meet or aren't don't live in a house or whatever, or what makes me so special that I get to have a house? I felt very much like an alien in this house, and I
Super
found
relatable.
that yeah, I found that kind of taking over and like fixing the problems or attending to the rooms one at a time, starting with the bathroom, which the floor was rotting out. So I had to start there because you can't, I didn't want to put my foot through the floor or have the bathtub fall through the floor while I was in it. Starting with that, I realized like, well, when I kind of like claim it, it's kind of like playing a game of Risk with myself where I'm slowly taking over territory in my own house and making it feel like it's mine. And so I ended up basically from the first month I lived there, starting in the bathroom, all the way up to the last month I lived there. My then new partner Robin and I, putting the finishing touches in the living room, ended up finally kind of feeling like I had claimed the whole house and made it nice. Got some of these kind of deeper problems in the house addressed, setting it up to stand for a lot longer. And it was really, really validating and satisfying. And part of what motivated me was like the iPhone. I had just kind of discovered the iPhone's time lapse feature, and it was fun to just set it down, open up a beer, put loud music in my headphones, and just work for 6 hours. Like I would get off my day job and then immediately just turn around and start working on the house
Hmm.
with energy I wish I still had. Um, and deep into the night, and I would just like time lapse the whole thing, and then I just throw the video up on Instagram, and people just really liked that. I mean, I wasn't trying to like build a following for myself or whatever, but like my friends, nothing I've ever done online, just on my own personal accounts, has ever had like a response like that, where
It
people are
just kind
just
of
like
connected.
begging for more. Yeah.
Well, it's
Um,
super satisfying content because, like, I mean, you have like good aesthetic sensibilities for the most part, I would say. Like, I mean, and just finding a nice spot to set the camera and hit time lapse. Like you ain't got to do much more. It's like Bob Ross, just all you had to do was set the camera down and paint. Like that was it. It was super satisfying. Like I
It kept me
definitely.
going because there's a sort of a built-in accountability when people are watching you do
Mm,
something, right? So
yeah,
you get
yeah,
egged on in that way, and so whether or not
that's
people actually like would have been irritated with me if I stopped before I was done, I got to convince myself that they would be, and that was enough of a
that
motivation to keep going.
that's
So.
part of why I do this show is like, yeah, just
Mm.
accountability for my own self, like forcing myself to do it because I said I would do it with people like you, like with,
Mm-hmm.
my friends. Like, it's harder for me to be lazy and not do the show and like not kind of, you know, ply my craft in a way that I own, unlike
Mm-hmm.
my all my other client work. Unless I kind of involve other people, and like it's just sort of the point of me doing this. And this is, I think, only episode 6 or whatever. But I want to do it every Tuesday. I've already skipped a couple of weeks, but like we're still doing it. And I think all that matters is you pick up the paintbrush, you pick up the hammer, like you just keep doing it, right? Like that's all there is to it.
Yeah, I love that.
With that on the table, I'm gonna hit our first middle of the hour ad break. Everybody's favorite segment here. We're gonna mute out on the feed, and we will be right back. All right, welcome back from the break, folks. I'm still here with Jesse Holden. We're gonna go into 5 more minutes just because we're enjoying talking to each other so much. Jesse, welcome back. As we were discussing some more of the finer nuts and bolts of streaming stuff on the cheap, using everybody's favorite software and least favorite software, OBS, um,
It's
and
funny. I mean,
talking about
any and this is something where our worlds overlap so much, and so many people we care about's worlds overlap. Where it's trying to kind of like find an audience, connect with an audience, build a corpus of creative work, whether that's like media, whatever art form you want. It's such a strange landscape out there right now, and it's an area that I wish I was more of an authority on because I feel so close to it. But I'm as lost as anybody on this stuff. I mean, it's definitely a moment where a lot of people are talking about a return to people kind of owning their own content, having their own place to host their work, kind of divesting from major kind of incredibly centralized platforms like all
Yeah,
of the meta platforms, and obviously the Twitter exodus is a big part of that conversation too.
definitely.
The idea of kind of a federated Fediverse with Mastodon and all of its ilk and activity pub stuff. That's a huge part of the conversation going on in creative spaces right now, and yet it's very difficult to see examples of that succeeding right now. I think that with Incredible Doom, we had to have a difficult conversation. Like, if we're going back to the web, if we're going back to just like disintermediating our relationship with our readership, and just trying to
Mm-hmm.
like really close that gap and just be there with them and not have a publisher and not have a a platform or intermediary there, what does that look like? Is the next version of Incredible Doom shaped around Instagram? I mean, there's a lot of people whose comics are designed to be read on Instagram from conception.
Yeah.
Or is there like animatics that we want to do for video, for TikTok type audiences? If we try to build our own kind of web comic site in the vein of how it would have been done before the world got eaten by these mega platforms,
Yeah.
can we get people there? How will people even know it's there? Are people consuming media that way anymore by going to a dedicated endpoint like that? Or are they just going to continue to expect everything to be a slurry fed to them through the subreddits
Do
they're on, through their Facebook wall, things like that?
Yeah, do people even website anymore? Is like
Right,
is a thing that, and it's like yes, but only very specific people. Like
right,
it's a small but dedicated group of people still. Like it's those of us that are still kind of mad about Google Reader. It's like
right.
it's the yes,
Absolutely.
I still pay for an RSS service type of people, right? Like Feedbin, I think I'm still on Feedbin.
Right.
Like
And
that,
it's
and the
funny
Reader
because it
app,
was
of course.
such like surfing the internet in the early days for me was to visit your links. Go through your bookmarks folder and one at a time bring them up and see what's going on. And maybe that was web. I
Hmm.
mean, for me, a lot of that was web comics. And
Yes.
if I had had the self discipline to save up for a few days, I could like page back a few days and read them, in quick succession or whatever. But kind of making the rounds like that was a big part of it. And it was like
Yes,
visiting a
absolutely.
lot of different people's houses, and
Mm.
then people having their link rolls and cross posting and guest spots on each other's websites and stuff was a really
Yeah.
wonderful way, organic way of discovering things in a way that felt very uh, you know, unmarketing like, I guess I would
Right.
say.
Or
And
or
it's very hard not to
or
pine for
authentic.
that internet. Yeah, right. And
Authentic, right?
we're linking to each other because we like each other, because either
Right.
because we're friends or because we like each other's work at least. And that's an act. That's a deliberate act. Whereas if I were publishing a web comic on Instagram, the ads that broke up my comic wouldn't be under my control, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
it's hard not to pine for that, but it's also it's a little bit old man yells at cloud to say like, well, let's just go back, right? Because I don't there is something ahead of us that is different than what we currently have, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to also look like what we used to have either.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some things that would be nice to return to, or at least have come back in some way. But like, yeah, I wonder about using websites sometimes. People look at me like a weirdo for like wanting like my bank website, right? Like I don't need a fucking app to log into my bank. Like the once a month I look at that shit, right? Because it depresses
Right.
me to look at more than that. Like, um, yeah, just make your fucking website work, guy. Like that's all I care about. Um,
Right. I mean, that's another thing. And my girlfriend will tell you this is a daily rant of mine. Like, oh, I remember when people, like, when software worked, like when people gave a
yes.
shit about, like, a page actually loading when you go to
Yeah.
it. But, that feels like a losing battle as much as
Well,
anything.
yeah, and we're at the point now where even as a software developer for 20 years, like I feel like we're at the point now where a lot of again more old man yells at cloud shit, but like a lot, like we're at the point now where a lot of software developers honestly do not know why their software fails when it fails anymore. Like they actually just don't know because they didn't like do that part. Like it was they
Right.
had like some layer of their library or chat GPT or whatever, just
Right.
kind of did all that stuff for them. And so now something is wrong and they honestly don't know how to fix it or why it's even wrong. And
Right.
it's like it's such a different way to make a living than it was when I started, like
Right.
as a developer especially. And like I wasn't even it's not like I didn't go to like Harvard or whatever, like but I feel like it's completely different. The game is completely different, sort of like the webcomic stuff. Like this is not the days of Scary Go Round and
Hmm.
Wigoo and shit. Like
Yeah,
man,
exactly.
I actually it was just I was just washing my Scary Go Round tea towel that I bought like 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Like holy cow. I also just found my copy of the first book over in the pile over there. I need to dig out some more of my old webcomic shit.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah, and with the third kind of series of Incredible Doom, we've entered kind of the early web and forum culture eras, and it's
right.
and it's an area where it's like I could fill 300 pages of just
Oh,
screenshots of like that, right? But unfortunately, we also have to have a story with characters who step away from the computer sometimes. But
right.
that's exactly it, and I think that all the way back to the 1990s and some of the formative relationships I made online were all on the Dumbrella forums, which were the
Oh
kind of the
yeah.
PHP BB forums that supported
Mhm.
Exploding Dog was kind of my main haunt, but also Diesel Sweeties, also I think Wegu was represented there.
Yeah, big shout out to R. Stevens.
Yeah, and people I still talk to daily now are people I met on those forums, and I don't know that that type of connection is happening nowadays, at
Yeah.
least not in that sort of format. I mean, I guess people would be going to the equivalent subreddit and maybe chatting
I
with
think
people,
that's the
but
closest there is
but
probably
it's
a
also just
subreddit
so
or a
disseminated,
Discord or a
right?
dedicated Discord for now. It would be a
Right.
dedicated
A
Discord
dedicated
channel.
Discord is I like that trend because it's a little bit more. I don't like for the internet to be kind of siloed off and stratified in that
Mhm.
way for its own sake, but I do love it just becoming a little more decentralized and having actual like community building again in a way that you can't when it's a
Mhm.
town square where everybody's screaming at the top of their lungs all the time.
That is true.
And in the old web forums for webcomics days, it was because partly because it was a smaller group, people kind of knew each other better. Also because there wasn't a lot of kind of like identity fuckery going on as much at the time, but there was a certain like continuity of presence and identity that like you got to know somebody, where I don't think people on the same subreddit are doing that because I don't think they're seeing the same 12 people every day happen to log on and like referring back to conversations you remember having with that guy a couple weeks ago or whatever. It's I think a lot more depersonalized, so to have things like private discords and stuff I think is heartening. It's a little bit, it cuts against one of the other, I think, high values of the web, which is transparency and discoverability, where like that stuff's not,
Being able
indexed
to
in the
actually
way.
find stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stumbling into something
And
is a lot harder, but I think that's a fair cost to pay
or
to have.
stumbling upon it or digging
Right.
something up, for example.
Right. But
Wow.
I mean I think that now to have true communities in the internet culture being what it is today, I think you have to have a drawbridge that you could lift of some sort in a way that you didn't used to have to.
Because of the
But that's
scale.
that's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
think
worth
about
it
this
if
a
you
lot
can
like
carve out those spaces. Yeah.
our and maybe to put a bow on our conversation here, a positive a bow, a nice sparkly shiny bow.
Yeah.
Um I think even though we were kind of both sort of glum about the sort of viability of the open web or websites or whatever indie web stuff that is very near and dear to our hearts. Um, One thing I try to keep in mind is that even though the percentage of people that are using the web as I use the web, and even just calling it the web is such a fucking old man
Mm.
thing.
Hmm.
Um, even though the percentage of people that do that is like so small these days compared to the broader, app-based internet and whatever, it's still way, way, way more people than were using it in like 2000. Like,
Right.
even though it's less as a percentage, it's still more. Just the trouble, still that like we've been talking about is just finding each other, is finding the audience, finding the stuff you want to see, and that's basically why all of these companies are just kind of algorithm slop companies, because they solve that problem at the expense of almost everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think that I think there's a brighter future possible for us. I really think that the Twitter implosion is meaningful. I think that the rise of the Fediverse, the foothold that I hope that it continues to gain, is meaningful, and I think people creating community and affinity groups, people marginalized groups finding each other and being able to
Yeah,
communicate kind of
absolutely.
outside of the larger, eye of Sauron of the shillord internet,
Yeah.
is great. And I think that there's promise in that direction, and I am optimistic about it.
Yeah, it's hard not to be. There's too many incredible people out there still somehow, to be too sad, I think. But
Yeah.
Jesse, people, if people want to follow you, find you on the internets, buy your stuff, where should they do that?
I think you could probably go to jesseholden.com would be the place to go. That's the website I wrote in HTML.
Yes. Yes.
Self-hosted, FTP'd the files up myself. I
Absolutely,
I
dude.
use the Hype app for some of the animations, but the rest is all
Okay.
done the dirty way. And
I love it.
if now or in the future, whatever I happen to be working on, I'll try to link from there. Right now, it's mostly points to Incredible Doom stuff and some of the
Okay.
amazing things people have said about it.
Awesome. Thanks
Oh
so
my
much for
God,
joining us, Jesse. Yeah, we got a shot of your gut there. It was beautiful.
yeah. Getting some
We'll
camera failures. Here we
that'll
go.
go in the highlight reel. Yeah.
Love
No,
it.
thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining us, Jesse. This was a lot of fun. We'll have you back on the show, and I will get to see
Awesome.
you going to XOXO Fest this
You will
year.
get to see me. You won't be able to hide from me. You're the first person I chase down every year.
I love it. That's so kind
All
of you
right.
to
Thanks,
say,
Phil.
Jesse. Yep. See you
Take
later,
it
man.
easy. Bye.
Adios. Hey, there's two of me now. Look at that. All right. So that was a lot of fun, wasn't it? Jesse is just a swell fella. Really, just a good dude to know. Always posting exciting Reno content on his on his Instagram, as well as just a man of taste. Jesse has really good taste in all the stuff he does, and puts a lot of work into pretty much everything that he bothers to release, and I really admire that about him. Um, yeah, so I'm going to take one more quick break here while we figure out what games we are going to play here on Phil's show. In case you forgot, I'm Phil. It's my show. We might be back with a little bit of SimCity. We might play some Vampire Survivors. I have a bunch of shit I still need to unlock in Vamps, so we'll be back in about 3 Earth minutes with Vampire Survivors. Maybe let's find out. right, folks. We are back. We are going to play some Vampire Survivors. I am here with the ever lovely and talented Natalia de la Rosa. You want to say hi? No?
Hi.
Let me see if I can arrange my mic a little bit better here to get both of us. That should be pretty. Man, it keeps giving me spell string. Like, I really don't want to level it up that high right now. So I have to go roll. Nice. Duplicator is one of my faves.
I feel like I'm gonna die because of this.
We've got some revivals as well.
But I wanna die.
I don't want you to. I think you'll heal pretty fast as well.
I do, like...
You can just stay.
But I also feel like we should start going up.
Yes.
Because we're still in the middle, as I saw. On the map.
Yeah, we can start moving up.
Chicken for me?
Yep, there you go. Nice. Alright. Screen marker when the game actually started streaming. Right? Now I had a problem with ABS and the window capture system. I'm making note for myself. Yes. It gets kind of harder, like at this level when you have the super fast mode on, or like one of the faster modes. And here come the skeleton. Nice. Okay. Can definitely go snag some of these XP over here.
Yeah. Oh.
Excellent.
Just let me check. I feel like we are not moving. No.
We still got 20 minutes.
There's-
We should go back down this way. There's a couple of things we missed. There's a chest, and there's also my spell shot, which drops on level 20 for my character. Which, like, level 5 was the other one which you grabbed, and level 20 is this one.
Okay.
So it's nice.
Mm.
Yeah. So much stuff. Yeah. Killed a lot of skeletons.
What?
We killed a lot of skeletons. Oh shit. Let's go! Let's fucking go! Shit, dog.
You got your go?
Academy badge, excellent. I don't know if I want that right now.
Get it. It won't hurt you, I guess.
I like how you were so confident. I guess.
I guess. Ooh.
Yeah, spell string.
Come on, let's
we
stay
gotta.
closer because if you move, then it doesn't move anymore. We should go up, not down.
I'm just trying to get that S. It's a power. And then you can move. Oh, nice. Let's fucking go. My controller, has yours like glitched out a couple times too? No, it's just me luck.
I think we should be moving.
I just didn't want to get stuck where those tombstones and stuff. It's hard to connect with them. I don't really have that many AoEs. Right. Oh, there's a boss.
No.
Alright, let's go. Let's go.
Whatever.
No, it's all good. Let's keep moving towards the goal. Boss wolf there. But also a bunch of we might be on the level here.
No, I think it's fine. Just stay where the Santa water is.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine. That's, I think. This segment is brought to you by Stevia.
Dr.
Please.
Zevia. Sponsor me.
Sponsor us. You.
No future. I think the only weapon in here named after a punk song. I could be wrong.
What?
I think it's the only weapon in the game named after a punk song. I could be wrong. Nice.
Which one?
Trifecta. No future. Fuck these enemies, they ain't shit. Definitely make it. the XPs. Oof, pushing the guys into us. Hate it when that happens.
I'm dying. I need to get out of here.
Oh, too many guys. Wow. Thought we had more revives than that.
We didn't choose the yellow card, the resurrection one. You choose another one.
Oh wow. Okay. We unlocked
Spells.
wait one moment. I'm gonna fix the display. It's just gonna drive me crazy if I don't. There we go. Okay. One more time. Let's check our powers. Oh no. Okay, so we have one revival. What does Omni do? Huh. It's a new one.
It's pretty awesome. I have it. Can I have some more for you, Sevia?
I think. Yeah, I'm gonna go get another one.
I'll get it.
It's okay. All right. I mean, that's all we want, right? We can turn up curse if we're really feeling tough.
No.
Okay. We're
Why
gonna.
do you have that one turn off?
What one?
Do it again. This one. It's off. That's why it
Well,
doesn't look
I don't know.
yellow.
I don't know.
Yes. You didn't know that? You can turn
I-
it off.
Yeah, I didn't
You,
know.
even if you already bought them.
I didn't know you could do that. No. All right, we're gonna take a middle of the hour ad break. All right, we are back. Do you want to tell the good people what we're gonna try to do here with on Vampire Survivors?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. You gotta get closer to the mic.
We're gonna try to get a coffin.
Trust me. It's just the way it's meant to be.
We're gonna try to get a coffin, and it has a question mark. You will see it. It's gonna be on the top right corner, and it's gonna be a sweet surprise that Phil doesn't know.
I don't. I have no idea.
Phil
what it
doesn't
is.
know what we're gonna get, so
don't.
I already know, but I think it's
Okay.
that's what we're trying to get.
All right, back to Vampire Survivors. There we go. Should be, audio should be good. Okay. Let's see, what do I want? I get pretty good luck with Pasqualina. Poe is also fun to play with. Maybe I'll do Poe. Actually, let's do Porta. Get some ASMR for the folks out there. They love it. They love it.
We love Sevilla. Then I guess I'll do Popea.
Also a fun one to play. Like, just very different strategy than lots of other characters.
Wait, what? Oops. Oh.
All right. What was the... Yeah, I'm going to do the healing one again. I think it's a good one. So.
Okay.
Right. Whoa. I love the cooldown. Like, the starting cooldown bonus for Porta is sweet, but kind of worthless in this level. I'm going to do Magic Wand.
We should start doing right now that it's easier.
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know what this means.
It's sort of like the healing thing where it... Yeah, the drill one is an interesting power that is like hard for me to play.
Yeah, it's kind of random. You can have to like really control the direction, right?
Yeah, it's the last direction you
Yes.
face. That's it. It isn't random. It's the last direction you face when you stop. That's what direction spikes go. That's why I find it kind of fidgety. Yeah, I don't want the whip. Shiny bat over here.
Got it. It's fine. Very good XP.
Yeah, the Evolved King Bible is also great. It's one of my favorite Evolved weapons.
Lucky who?
Lucky 3. All right, let's go.
I feel like you're moving very slowly.
I think it's just because everybody else is moving so fast.
No, I think you're moving pretty fast.
The levels are bigger than you think. I think.
The whole map?
It gets, yeah, just because it loops like it does, it's deceptively large.
Okay.
See, we're pretty close.
Sometimes I get confused with all the way in the game.
We should be outlined still, right? That helps a bunch.
What?
We're outlined, I think. That helps me a bunch.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking about the axe. Let's do the axe. Axe plus duplicator is a pretty sweet thing. Let's those guys. No match for us. Vampire Survivors is a bit like bowling in that you need to get a couple of matches. Like I feel that I need to get like at least one game in before I'm actually ready to play.
Like a warm-up. Oh, we're almost there.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to heal up a little bit first.
There's a chicken. Let's see if there's another one.
We'll find you another one.
No, it's fine. What's wrong one?
Yeah, let's just do lightning, I guess. Nice. Sweet. What was that, level 6 or 7? Number 5.
Yeah.
Still. Nice.
They help you for it.
Yeah, this is the XP farming portion. It's like the second XP farming portion of the level. Okay, so go through. Go where? That was the upgrade I needed. Now this is just like killing those guys in one shot. What the hell is it? There it is.
We have to kill all of them before we
Yep.
get... that was a little bit.
Come get by here so we can get these guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice. Mm.
Thank you.
I didn't want to level up my thing to level 8 yet. I'm trying to do strategy. Strategery. What should we do? This one?
Sure.
Armor also affects listed weapons damage and reflects enemy damage. Character gains bonus damage depending on missing health. Defeating enemies for character enemies plus 5 max health. That could be pretty useful with the other one we have. How have we not unlocked this guy yet? Did we not kill these? No, he's still there. I'll be damned.
I'm trying to remember what we have to do.
There's still guys.
Yeah, that's the
still
issue.
guys.
We have to kill all of them.
Yeah.
We'll do it. I think
There we go. Where was it?
we'll see.
Have any AoE attacks? There we go. Some XPs. Excellent. Excellent.
I think I'm gonna die.
No, I will be fine. I'm certain. What, 15 minutes? Nice. Where's the chicken? Get it.
Ah,
So many guys.
it's okay. Don't panic. Just don't move that fast. We can handle them.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. I got your duplicator. It's my last chance. And then this one will be level 8. Ooh. Ooh. Be a little double friendship. We have no of these. Yeah, we're pretty much invincible in this if we stay in the same area at this point. Ooh. Nice. Wow. And I got the Evo.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Yeah, that shit. I'm losing these, I suppose. Just good fucking time. Let's go. Just kind of happened. Sweet. Damn. Alright. So much XP. Potions are too powerful for these travelers. Oh, yeah. Let's look at the maps. Is there anything else you want to try to get? Not really. What do those flower things do again? At the bottom, they're not clovers. What are they? Yeah,
Those are the same as the power at the thing. The one that you
So which one is it? Is it strength?
The 10%
Is it spinach?
damage.
Okay, spinach. Go down there and load up on spinach. Become ultra powerful, defeat death. We have it in the AoE effects. There we go. Finally some worthy challenges.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That close, we don't have that clock. Hmm. We're close. Yeah, we're kind of close. Oh, hey, there's a box up there.
Hard.
Racers, all right. Where's the purple cat? I don't see it. Let's get up.
There's
Oh
a-
yeah, I see it. She's barely hard to see. I don't know if I want to move. It's the revival. Yeah, the deaths are coming.
They're coming. Like,
Right.
where are you?
On the right side. I was going towards
Oh,
the thing.
fuck.
Wow, look at all that.
Hmm.
Nice. What is that? I don't know what that one does.
It's for the of a 10 you have to collect, and then you have to get the that is from the Capella Magna when you kill
Mm.
the big boss
Mm.
of Capella Magna. Then you get something for this, all of the 10.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Woo. Ah, ah.
Okay, press start.
Yeah.
And then start.
Yeah. What for?
Look. And then you may have. See?
Oh,
This is what you
okay,
got.
random.
Well,
Nice.
yeah.
That's cool. It picks a randomly available character.
Yeah.
There's lots of. This is a game made for and by people that are just, you're gonna play it
Are you gonna buy
a
it?
billion times. You have to unlock it. You
Yes.
have to buy it. How much
Yeah,
does it
you
cost?
unlock it. You just need to buy it.
Wait, where was it? There
Up.
it is.
There it is.
Oh yeah, definitely is.
And then it's a random. Like
Yeah.
every time you get to this part, it's gonna be a different name and a different power.
Oh wow.
Every
Okay.
time.
It's exciting. But let's call it a show. We'll go play this in the warm the less warm part of the wizard tower.
Okay.
That is it for today's show, folks. This has been Phil's show. I'm Phil. It's my show. We will catch you next Tuesday for video games, possibly also fun. I don't know. But thank you for watching, and take care of yourselves out there. Take care of somebody else if you can, and have a pleasant evening, day, or whatever, wherever you may be.
Adios.